Talking about haters, I mean, my day starts with lots of negative comments. I have to go through those, and you've got to be bigger than that. You know, when you run a big channel, as you know, you get a lot of negative stuff. Yep. Some people hate the world, and they're just looking for someone else to hate on. I like that one. We get into shadow banning from time to time, so we're in and out of shadow ban. That's a ban that you get when you don't get a ban, and you can look at your status on Instagram, and often it'll have little green ticks and it'll say you're all cool, you're all cool, you're all cool, but then you notice that your channel loses more followers. Yeah, Instagram's been a very challenging platform for us to navigate the tripwires that they've set up for us. My grandfather was a professor of languages, and he was a researcher, and he taught me how to research because I didn't have a father. I mean, I had a father, but he disappeared very early on, and my grandfather raised me largely. The one thing he taught me how to do was the one thing that most people don't know how to do, and I'm going to share this with your audience, and that was to ask the right question. So he ended up writing as a result of all of this intricate research, which took 50, 60 years. And in the end, just before he died, all his private research was taken by the universities, and they gave him an honorary professorship.
The information provided is for general information and educational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. You should consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment or financial decisions. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Scottie G Show. I am really excited for this one. Some of you would have already seen him online, on Instagram, all over the place, just speaking plenty of common sense and just real life stuff, which I absolutely love. And I've got him on the show today. He is an author, he's a keynote speaker, he's a guy in the hat, he's owner of Beat the Reset. He's just an all-round good bloke. Tim P.Manger, welcome to the pod.
How am I going to live up to that? All-round good bloke. Gee. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for having me on, and it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm just very overwhelmed at the moment and very excited.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you've enjoyed coming out here. I've given you a bit of a tour on my business and what I do, and the reasons why I started the Scottie G Show. And I'm having a ball with it, building a community. It's only fresh. It's only new, but it's already getting some traction. And,
I will.
And I love, and I'm sure you're the same. It's nice when you'll always have haters, but it's nice when you get love and people say, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. I love the content that you bring out, and that gives me energy.
Yeah, I had a great, talking about haters, I mean, my day starts with lots of negative comments. I have to go through those, and you've got to be bigger than that. You know, when you run a big channel, as you know, you get a lot of negative stuff. Yep. Some people hate the world, and they're just looking for someone else to hate on.
Yep.
So it's not unusual for me to wake up in the morning and read through the list of we hate you, we hate you, we hate you. Oh, so we like you. Okay, I like that one. So
it's funny you bring it up. So when you say big channel, nearly 100,000 Instagram followers, like really close.
Very close.
We're only a few hundred away. I looked this morning.
We are a few hundred. We get into shadow banning from time to time. So we're in and out of shadow ban. That's a ban that you get when you don't get a ban, and you can look at your status on Instagram, and often it'll have little green ticks and it'll say you're all cool, you're all cool, you're all cool, but then you notice that your channel loses more followers. We've been losing a lot, but we also think because of this new digital ID, we had a lot of people saying we're getting off social. So we noticed a huge
That's just
drop.
Their personal decision.
Personal decision.
They don't want a digital footprint out there.
Didn't want a digital footprint for one reason or another. I find that fascinating personally, but in a digital world. But you mentioned Instagram is a grind. If you can make it on Instagram, it's like that song, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Like that New York song. If you can make it on Instagram, you're going to make it.
Yep.
You know, you mentioned you're successful on YouTube, and YouTube's very difficult to do as well.
Yep.
But yeah, Instagram's been a very challenging platform for us to navigate the tripwires that they've set up for us. So.
Well, Yash does all the behind the scenes stuff, and he's always coming to me with, we tried to do this, we couldn't. We're now got this many followers, but now that if you want to grow it, you've got to spend money. Like they're always changing things. They're changing algorithms.
Yeah.
It's making it difficult.
So when we set out, as we started to grow, we were having a lot of problems with duplicate accounts and things like that, and Instagram couldn't do anything about it. We had so many.
When you say duplicate, people creating accounts,
people copying
pretending
our channel
to be
us, and we had lots and lots of them. In fact, it got really annoying, and it was becoming restrictive and a liability. And in anything in business, you kind of let it go until it becomes a liability, and you go, all right, now we need to deal with it. And Instagram's message to us was, we can't do anything about it, but if you pay us $24.95 a month for a little blue tick, we may be able to do something about it. And the same happened to us on Facebook, because Facebook, we've got about 60,000 followers on Facebook. And the same thing happened with Facebook, because they're the same company. Meta's the same. Instagram and Facebook are the same. And the same thing happened, except Facebook did it differently. They duplicated all of our accounts, and we had them everywhere. And I said, please stop. And they said, we can't, but if you pay us $85 a month. And I'm thinking, let me guess, right? I mean, you can make it go away now. Yeah, we give you something called scam protection.
Gotcha.
So you won't get your scam protection without paying for the blue tick.
No one's copied us yet.
They will. They will. They will.
There'll be another Scottie G out there. All right,
they will. It happens at a certain point. So I think, I don't want to say it's all by design, but it seemed to happen at a point where it was like Instagram was saying, all right, look, you're building a business, obviously. You've got a channel. People are listening to you. Come on. I mean, what are we getting out of this? It's So it was like, okay, scam accounts everywhere, pay us $24.95. And it was like, see, now we're all in. Now we're winning together, right? You know.
Yep. Now, before we talk about beat the reset, and before we solve all the world's problems in the next half an hour, tell us a little bit about yourself for people that don't know who you are and how you got into what you do today.
Well, I think you said I was an all-round great bloke, so I'm going to start with that. I'd say that I do believe that, but that's a personal opinion, and it's never been verified by anybody else.
Didn't Instagram give you a blue tick for that?
They did. I have to pay for it. It's like paying for your friends, right? So we look. I'm a Melbourne-based guy, Collingwood supporter, as you found out just recently. I'm not sure.
You're lucky I kept you.
No, I actually thought in that moment I'd probably done my dash, but we had a pretty crap year as well, and you probably enjoyed us not making it to the final end there. But no, I was born and bred in St Kilda in Melbourne, and I won't go through the whole thing, but I have a Jewish background, believe it or not. But we're from the poor Jewish side. So I used to say to my grandfather, you know, how come we haven't got like a double-story mansion? And he's like, no, I hate to tell you, we're from the poor ones, or Europeans. Anyway, as a result of that, my grandfather was a professor of languages, and he was a researcher, and he taught me how to research, because I didn't have a father. I mean, I had a father, but he disappeared very early on, and my grandfather raised me largely, and he taught me how to research. And in the research, what he really, the one thing he taught me how to do was the one thing that most people don't know how to do. And I'm going to share this with your audience, and that was to ask the right question. I will give somebody a text and they'll read it, and I'll say, do you see anything in that text? They'll go, no. And I'll say, okay, let me step you through what I saw. And this point here, you need to ask that. And they go, why? Well, I guess if you're at the point where you don't know why you're asking it, then you probably have no interest. But my point is, I'm always learning like you. And I learnt that the detail, my grandfather taught me how to do it. And because he was into languages, he would find a word and he'd say to me, have a look at this word. And I go, it's a word. And this is when I was very young. And he'd go, okay, but if you break it into syllables, he goes, I'm going to take out the middle syllable. I'm going to show you what's going to happen here. And he would follow that middle syllable. And it would take him all over the world, and he would find where that syllable was first uttered. So he ended up writing, as a result of all of this intricate research, which took 50, 60 years, a thesis which got picked up by the universities. And in the end, just before he died, all his private research was taken by the universities, and they gave him an honorary professorship. And all he taught me how to do was look at the detail. Yep. Don't just wash over the detail. It's in there. You will see it if you're only open to it. So I guess...
So it made you very analytical?
I wouldn't say I'm analytical. I think I'm I'm observant, but only because I'm looking for it. There's an old Chinese saying, to see one must only look. So if you're never looking for it, it's like when I say to people, go out onto the road and have a look how many number plates start with the letter A. They'll come back and go, oh my God. And it's like, because
Is it the red car theory?
the red car thing, because you're looking for it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, your kids play, spot the red car, right? There's so many red cars, I never knew. Yep. It's like, okay,
you're looking for it.
So it's this reticular activated system that we have, and that is that, for me, it's an obsession for knowing.
Yep.
And I want to know. So if I read a sentence, I will read the sentence, but I'll really read the sentence, and I'll go back over and go, hang on, there's something here I need to ask. So most people don't do that. Most people just read a blob of text and go, okay. COVID was a great example. I think that separated the wheat from the chaff through COVID. You know, a lot of people just went, okay, I guess there's a bat virus that came out of China and we're all going to die. Okay, great. But I was way away from that. That wasn't me. Yep. So I guess what expertise I bring to BTR is, first of all, the ability to ask the right questions. It doesn't make me a genius. It just means I'm looking for something and I want to find it. And even if I can't find it, I'm obsessed. Sometimes I'll know it's there. But nothing points to it, but I know it's there. It's a knowing. You've got to know it. And after a while, you realize that everything has a rhythm to it, and you know that it's there, but you've just got to find it. That's the art to research. So many people say to me, well, you write all these books, but where does this all come from? I said, well, it's all there, but it's just because I ask different questions to the normal person.
Yeah, right.
That's it. It's like strategizing. It's like, why is a team better than another team when they both play the same sport? They've got the same players, they pay them the same. How did they do it better than these guys? It's because they look at it differently. They've got a different view. Or so they know what they want to achieve. So for me, research isn't, I already know what I want to get to. I know where I want to get to. So I'll hypothesize something. I'll say, for example, let's think of something. One of my great passions is what's beyond the 60th parallels. My great passion is, I know there are worlds here. I know they're here. I know there are other continents. I know that because I've been obsessed with old maps, and there's all these old continents like Plutusia, Agartha, Mu, Caucasia, Tartaria. These are all on old maps. Hyperborea, they're all there, but now they're not. So I know they're there. I know they're there because I can see them on the old maps, but nothing will tell you that. Not your education, not your government, no one will tell you that there's these continents all across your starboard bows and to your port sides, but you can't get there.
So are we talking under the oceans? Are we talking outside? Are we talking in different solar systems?
No. And again, this is a little off topic. This will take us down.
It is, but I'm enjoying it.
People love my research. I got a private channel on Patreon that's a paid channel, and that's where I put all my conspiracy theories. And the thing about my conspiracy theories is they're postulations based on what I know to be real. But I just can't prove it because we've had our education system changed, and we've had our indoctrinations are so successful at indoctrinating that we can't get there. But I know they're there because I can't explain why I've got, 2,000 years of maps and undersea cabling systems that are ancient cabling systems. I'm talking fibre optic cabling systems that have been there forever. How it is that all of that is there, and suddenly it all disappeared. And then now we've got NASA and this round Earth model, and the fact that there's just these little group of 7 continents, 6 of them start with A, and that Antarctica is this little frozen wasteland. But when you really start asking questions, because I know that's not true. I know it's not true. It's like when somebody tells you a story and you go, no, I know that's not true. I know it's not true. But you can't prove, it's like, it's not true, but you can't prove what is true. But I know it, and I know you're wrong. I know that can't be the case. And the funny thing is, when I go to my version of the planet and my version of what the old maps were, everything works. Everything makes sense. All my questions get answered. When I move to the newer version, which is essentially started around the turn of the 20th century after the last Great Reset, around the turn of the 20th century, like let's say 1900, 1899, everything was changed. Everything was changed. and including flight paths, shipping lanes, communications. All of this was altered. So now there's a gap. Now you can't get to that for very good reason, because somebody doesn't want you to. So you're stuck here. I know this is going to go off topic, but you're stuck in this realm, this realm of 7 continents. One of them, the most important of all, is the one you can't go to, which is Antarctica. And that's because it unlocks the key to everything that I've been talking about. You are not allowed to go there. You've never been allowed to go there since 1961. So you're not allowed internationally to cross the southern parallel or the northern parallel.
So this lines up with controlling the people.
You are stuck.
We will only show you what we want you to know.
see.
We will only teach you what we want to teach you. So then you can live this way, because we do not want you to know about this.
You will never know. So to the 60th parallel to the north, it used to be called the Dew line, DEW line. That is, you can't go any further than the 60th parallel north, so you will never learn about Hyperborea in the hollow earth. And you can't go beyond the 60th parallel south, because international treaties were set up in 1959, which became active in 1961. And now you've got 30 nations that can't agree on anything, but they could agree not to let you go to beyond that parallel, because if you go beyond that parallel, which goes right round the globe, if you even attempt to do that, you'll be turned around by a Navy warship or shot down or whatever it is. That is international war. That is declared to be a completely isolated zone. You are not allowed to go there. Now, the question is, if Antarctica is this frozen wasteland to the south with penguins and to the north with polar bears, then why can't we go there? And they say the reason they did that was for conservation reasons. It's like, we need to protect Antarctica. Well, the reason I've got a problem with that, again, asking the right questions, is how many people jump in a boat and go to Antarctica? Not many. And it's supposedly, we're told, it's a continent that's bigger than the United States. 8,000, kilometres across. So it's double the width of Australia. Well, who do you know has ever gone to Antarctica? Who's likely to go to? Why are you picking that continent to preserve it when we are told that virtually no one's ever crossed it? We don't really know what's there, but we do know what's there. And the problem is we do, because you only have to go prior to the last reset. All the old shipping maps have it there for all to see, including the UN's maps as well. The United Nations maps are exactly the same. So they know. What they're trying to do is hope you don't know. And the organisation that controls it is interesting. It's part of the United Nations. It's called the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. Now, people who would be into radio and any sort of telecommunications would have come across the ITU. It's one of the most important of the UN arms. In fact, it was the original United Nations, was the ITU. And it was set up in 1865, can you believe it, as a telecommunications business. And it was called in 1865, and this is great for your viewers. This is the topic that people have asked me, the one topic, if you could ever talk about it, this would be the one, is what lies beyond the 60th parallels and who set it up. And it was set up, the ITU, of course, is key to this, because they were called the International Telegraphics Union back in 1865. And at that time, 1865, when I say to people who come out of an indoctrinated institution such as a high school or a university, they would say in 1865 we were riding around in stagecoaches and shooting old guns at each other in the Wild West. Nothing could be further from the truth. In 1865, we were running real-time banking systems. Real-time, cross-border, real-time, continent-to-continent banking systems through the undersea cabling systems, which are still there to this day. So this whole notion of technology, 5G, 6G, we were using 6G in the 1890s. We have all this technology that's ancient, that's been repackaged on a reset and sold to you as something new, having changed all the maps, stopped you from moving outside these 7 continents. You can't go outside them, to the east, to the west, to the south, to the north. You are effectively imprisoned in this vast realm, if you like. Off topic, but very interesting.
Did your interest and deep diving into these topics, which I find absolutely fascinating, and when we finish, I'm going to be Googling and looking up all this sort of stuff. Did this was this a driver for you in terms of what you saw was happening with the fiat system, what governments were doing, the 100%. Way the banking system works? You touched on education, which is something I really, really want to talk about. Father of 3 young boys. Why are our kids not learning about how to live in a financial world? Why are they telling us that they have to be a certain way? You need to get a job, pay tax, borrow money from the bank, pay interest, and you need to just be locked into this system. Why don't they want to teach our kids a different way?
Let me just attempt to marry that bizarre conversation on the 60th parallels with why it tied into the monetary system. It's about one word which you mentioned, which is control. The central bank system is really what I became fascinated with. There was two things I was absolutely obsessed with. What is Money, which was the name of my first book. My first book was called Things You Were Never Told About Money. And it literally is 95 pages of things you weren't told about the monetary system. And when you read it, you go, I really didn't know any of that.
They never taught us that at school.
They taught you currency, and they taught you what a little Dolomite saver account and a commercial bank, and how to get a mortgage, and but they never taught you about the monetary system. And the monetary system was something we lost on the last reset because it was removed. And now we've got a central bank. Instead of gold and silver, gold was the monetary system of the planet and has been forever, and still is to this day, and it still is for the central banks. But after the last reset, they set up the Federal Reserve in the United States, and we ended up with central banks. And now, of course, the world operates. And look, the Federal Reserve wasn't the first of the central banks. We had the Bank of England. These are currency printing organisations. This is not a monetary system. This is a debt system. Anybody using currency is automatically in debt because it's promissory. And it kind of, people say to me, well, why is it promissory? And that's because when a central bank prints a note, it comes with interest. So I was explaining this on a podcast the other day that if I was a central bank in the United States, the Federal Reserve, 1913, I turn on the printing press and I produce $1. It's the only dollar I've produced. And I give it to you and I say, here you go. This is the only dollar. You've got it. And you go, but I want it back with 10% interest. And you go to me, hang on a minute, but this is the only dollar. Where am I going to get the other 10%? Now, there is why central banking is a problem. So we have this insane system, which is debt from the beginning, debt from the moment it's printed. And the way the central banks function is they turn on their printing press and they forget to turn it off. And the thing about monetary systems and value systems is they only work if they're limited. So, for example, the reason that you revere or you respect water is because we assume, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it's what we consider to be a fairly finite resource, although it seems to go on forever. But we treat it like that, so it has value. Anything that is a finite resource, it's like when there's a beautiful woman in a bar and 10 guys walk in. She's a finite resource, whereas one guy walks in a bar and there's 100 beautiful women. It's no longer. So my point is rarity is important, and currency has no rarity. It has no value. The thing that gives currency its value is the thing they took off you on the last reset, which was your gold and your silver. It was taken from you. I wrote a whole book. My second book was all about that, about what happened to your money. Your money. That's the word money is a real word. But it has nothing to do with what the central banks are doing. Their central banks are producing worthless paper. That's not a monetary system. Something closer to monetary systems would be barter trade. Like you make beautiful suits, and I want one of your suits. And on a barter trade system, we have a real value system. That's where I own a Mustang. A red Mustang, and you have beautiful suits, and you say, we have a conversation. I said, look, you give me your beautiful Mustang because that's a value to me, and you can have my suits. And we strike up a value. Where gold and silver came in is where no value could be, where no barter could be met. So, for example, I'd come to you and say, I want a suit, and you'd say to me, but you've got nothing I want. I go, okay, well, in that case, I can give you gold. That is a store of value. That will give you a certain, and you would accept that because that is a value to you for use somewhere else. So currency doesn't have that. Currency has no value. The only thing that gives it some idea of value is the fact that the central banks who print it actually have the gold in their vault. You can't have it, but they've got it. They give you the worthless paper, which you pass around to everybody. Everybody passes this paper around with interest. And it's controlled. The value of currency is controlled by the central bank. So what they do is the more they print, it's called inflation. I've listened to 1 million hours of economists debate what inflation is, and it was simple to me. if you have currency and you print it, you will inflate the economy. The inflation of the economy is simply the producing of more currency. And as you know, the more that go into the system, the more the pool comes down in value. So as you
And
print,
they're not stopping.
and they don't plan to stop soon, and they dress it up with beautiful names like quantitative easing. Quantitative easing is push the printer button, just let it go wild. And then everybody is so this entire currency pool will come down in value. And what happens is it does something interesting. As the currency pool depreciates in value, commodities which come out of the ground, and that could be anything, copper, coffee, zinc, anything that comes out of the ground, oil, gold, silver, these things, they go up in value enormously because the paper they're being compared to is being destroyed. So
Look at silver recently. Unbelievable.
Silver's a great example. Silver, it was always going to happen with silver because most of the silver on the planet right now is actually in the landfill. That's where it is.
Really?
Yeah. So because we had huge uses for silver throughout our...
So in electronics and
Correct.
all sorts of...
circuitry boards, most of the silver in the planet right now would be in the landfill. The rest of it is, we have obviously commoditized silver in the form of the sort of stuff we do, bullion, lots of industrial use. It's an industrial monetary metal, whereas gold is a monetary metal. So there are a few. You've got gold, silver, platinum. Gold is monetary, purely monetary. The only two places you will ever find gold, and there are exceptions. I know people go, well, that's not true. Just talking across the board.
The main ones. Yep.
Jewelry, 50% of the gold on the planet would be in jewelry, and the other 50% would be in the vaults of the central banks. That is it. It doesn't exist anywhere else, whereas silver has a different purpose. Silver is industrial. But it is monetary, and the reason it is monetary is because it's always worked side by side with gold on something called the gold-silver ratio. In other words, the man in the streets always traded silver as a value system because silver has a fabulous little value system. Not gold. It's not gold is reserve. You don't trade gold. You don't use gold for transacting. Gold is just reserve. You just keep gold. That's what you do with it. Yep. People always say to me, "What do I do with gold?" You know what? You hold it. Oh, well, what a minute! But I want to do something with it. Well, don't just hold it. You become wealthy holding it. Silver moves around in comparison. So silver is really, gold is the substrate and silver is the little thing that dances on the stage.
What is there more of physically in the world? Is there more?
Gold.
There's more gold.
Well, actually, so at the moment, if I was to melt down all the gold on the planet, there is 200,000 tons of gold on the planet right now. That's it, above ground. 200,000 tons. If you melted that down, it would be melted into a block of about 21 cubic meters. I think it's 21 cubic meters, 22 cubic meters. That's it. That's the entire...
Need a big safe.
You'd need a big safe. 21 cubic meters or 21 cubic meters. I've seemed to have got the metric, but there's 200,000 tons of gold above it. The difference between these two assets is what they represent to the monetary system. Silver has no mention in any... You don't see silver mentioned in statutes, whereas you see gold mentioned in statutes. For example, if you have a look at the United States Constitution, there is no mention of currency. No statutes talk about currency. The only thing they talk about is money. Now, the question is, which statute are you talking about, Mr. Guy in the Hat? Well, there's only one reference in the entire United States history to money. And it's in the United States Constitution, I think it's Article 20 or 25, and it says debt can only be extinguished using gold coin. And they're talking about actual gold. Now, that stands to this very day. So listen to that terminology. Debt can only be extinguished using gold coin because gold is non-promissory. You can't extinguish debt with a debt-based currency. That's why the US is $38 trillion in debt and climbing, and it'll never come down because the more of it they print, the worse it gets. Yep. So I guess my point is, and silver on the other hand is, so gold right now in terms of market capitalization, I know this is getting technical, but I'll give your audience a little bit of a feel for market capitalization. If I took real estate, globally, it'd have a $380 trillion value globally, what we call a market cap.
Yep.
The debt in the United States would be about 100 trillion. Credit card debt would be 100 trillion. So to give your audience a bit of a kind of a metric, 380 trillion real estate globally. In the United States, about $100 trillion of credit. Globally, gold is 30 trillion. So compared to real estate at 380, gold is a $30 trillion capitalization. Silver's only 2. Silver's about the same as Bitcoin, about a $2 trillion market capitalization. Yep. Bitcoin and silver have almost the same market capitalization.
Tiny in comparison.
Tiny in comparison to gold, which is why gold is a fantastic monetary stabilizer for the central banks. Anyway, continue. Sorry, you got some other questions. Keep going.
I've got lots.
Because there's so many questions. But I just wanted to tie. I tell you what I wanted. I was trying to tie in. So I said I was going to tie in what the 60th parallels had to do with the monetary system, and that is because at the heart of the monetary system there is a bunch of very, very wealthy families who have been here forever. And they control, and one of them particularly is the Rothschilds. Everybody would have heard of the Rothschilds because they're immeasurably wealthy. We're talking in the vicinity of $400 trillion of net wealth or something along those terms. It's trillion with a T. Now, beyond the 60th parallels, you are not allowed to go. But I found an island that no one talks about. There's 2. There's one called Deception Island, and just south of that... Deception Island. Interesting. And again, I could talk for a million. I could do 100 podcasts without taking a breath on what I've learned, but I won't. But I will say this, and what did I find beyond the 60th parallel? Beyond Deception Island was an island that virtually no one on this planet's ever heard of, and it's called Rothschild Island. Now, on Google Maps, which is, in my opinion, entertainment at best, their little entertainment version of what Rothschild Island looks like. Looks like a little snow-capped, cozy little, wind-swept, 180-degree winds, penguins. There's nothing there, nothing to see here. But there's still an island called Rothschild Island. So the central bankers, who are incredibly powerful, have a lot, in my opinion, to do with what's going on beyond the 60th parallels. And not just what's going on beyond there, but what they're able to use from what they're getting from down there. This is very complicated, but my point is there's my connection with the central banks because the Rothschilds are at the heart of the central banking system and always have been.
Interesting.
So...
In addition to being a researcher of global monetary systems and the author of 3 books, Tim, aka the guy in the hat, is opening his own bullion company in 2026. Operating as BTR Bullion, Tim plans to become a leading industry supplier of fine investor-grade physical gold and silver. Follow btr.bullion on Instagram or go to the Beat the Reset website. So did you, in your previous working life, career life, did you work in finance?
No, never.
So
research
was
only.
this something that you, when you started, when did Beat the Reset start?
2022 in the April. So just out of COVID.
So this was something that you were so passionate about. You said, I want to help other people in terms of...
No, not at all. No, yes, I want to help other people. So I want to say I'm a very heart-based guy.
Yep.
That's not how Beat the Reset started. So what happened was I had been researching a lot for a long time. I have a lot of research on a lot of things. And a good friend of mine, Layla Melki, and she called herself the Alchemy of the Warrior, a very well-known podcaster. And she was very active through COVID with her videos on what was happening at the shrine and what the big pole and all that. Anyway, she came to me by accident one day. She was on a podcast one. This is how Beat the Reset started, actually. This was day one. Actually, this was before day one. She was doing a podcast with a guy in the United States, and he was talking about cryptocurrencies and gold and silver and monetary stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to this podcast, and I was this annoying guy in the chat writing comments. Mm-hmm. And Layla said they could see the comments, and she goes, "Oh my God, check out some of the comments from this guy. They're really interesting." She goes, "I wonder if we should just get him on." So she said... hey, I don't know what my handle was then, like bloke number 5. She goes, hey, bloke.
All-round good bloke.
All-round good bloke number 1. She goes, all-round good bloke number 1. If you I want to get you on, just make sure, because it was a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, I was in my boxer shorts, I was eating rice bubbles with the kids, my boys were there, they're loud. She said, just letting you know we're going to get you on. So I jump on, and I looked like terrible, so I grabbed a hat and I chucked it on. And I was sitting there, and it's like, she's looking at me, I'm looking at her, and she's got this American guy. Well, he left. I don't know what happened. He just thought the conversation with me and Layla was so deep, he just signed off, and it was just Layla and I now. And she said, this is so interesting, and all these comments were like, she said, we're getting a lot of interest in what you're saying here. It's just like new stuff for us. Do you have a channel? I said, no, I haven't got a channel. I'm just a researcher. Yep. She goes, could you get a channel? Because there seems to be people wanting to know more. And that's where
she could see it. Yeah, absolutely.
So I started with like no one on my channel. I was like 3 people and me, you know. That's how it happened.
Yeah, that is amazing. So now we know why you're the guy in the hat, because you didn't fix your hair.
I didn't fix my head. The only thing I could do is put a hat on it, and it's better for everybody. But I started with a different coloured hat, and I used to, because my expertise, I'm a professional pianist, is one of the big things I am, and I used to do all my podcasts in front of my big grand piano, and because I didn't know what else to do, so I looked around my house going, well, what's interesting? Oh, the grand piano is interesting. So people used to say, oh, play the piano, and I said, is my research that bad? I mean, don't you just want to hear the research? No, but I never played the piano for them, but I mean, so back in the day I had a different colour hat, and I used to sit in front of my piano, and I used to wait for people to join, and you know, and I just used to rant. I used to actually do these podcasts for 5 views.
I love your solo rants, by the way.
Well, they've been going since the start, and I used to do it to no one. Like, again, when I used to go on my lives, I'd get like one person, and they'd be like you and me, and you'd go, ooh, this is awkward. And I'd be going, don't log
She
on.
knows it's only me.
But right? So I used to think to myself, it was a two-way awkwardness. It was like, you're feeling awkward because you're the guy that's logged on. Oh, I'm the only one in this chat. And I'm there going, ooh, what if he leaves or she? And they did. I remember in my first one, it went from 1 to 0. And I went, damn it.
Do you keep talking?
Yeah, I just kept going. I just thought, and I had no comments, and it was just me, and I just thought, oh, I'll just keep going. And that went on for quite a while. I mean, I went for a year before I thought, this is ridiculous. I had this little program where people would buy me coffee. And said, so, you know, that coffee program, buy me a coffee. Yep. So I used to get all these people buy me coffees. And after a year, I went, this is ridiculous. We've got to give this away. We've done this enough now. And then just as I was about, BTR has been a whole series of just as I was about to's, right? Just as I was about to, then I picked up a brand partner who was really interested in what I was doing. They said, we would like you to talk. And so they sponsored me for a little while. And then that didn't work after about a year. So then just as I was about to give it away a second time, another brand partner turned up and said, look, we'd love to be on board with you. And then that went for about a year. And then, you know, we're at a new phase now. We're like going through a big change at the moment. Yeah, nice. And it's another one of those just as we were about to moments. Life is like that.
Yep. And I love that story that you just said in terms of when you first start, because for me, it was the same thing. When my very first episode, you've got that self-doubt. Are people going to listen? Are people going to care what I'm talking about or the guests I bring on? And you have that self-doubt. Yes. And I love that when you said even when that one person dropped off, you kept talking because you're persistent and you're not going to quit and you're going to keep going. And it just shows a lot about personality and life in general.
Yeah.
Because not everything is easy. Business is hard. We know this. Business is hard. And business is getting harder because the governments want to keep taxing us and making it harder for small to medium enterprises to do our thing, penalise me for employing people, all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. So we know how difficult it is. So persistence and perseverance and keep going is...
Keep turning up. So through COVID, I got 4 kids. I had to get them through COVID and I had to protect them from certain things. Yeah. And people as well. I mean, it was challenging just watching what the community was doing to itself. Yes. And I had to get 4 kids through that. And through COVID, I was actually a gymnast. So I was training I trained for 8 years, right through COVID, and my boys were training with me. And you know, I haven't trained full on for 2 years now, but I was mega.
Gymnast training must be pretty full on.
So
on the body.
So calisthenics, so bars, rings, all that stuff. All the stuff, not free weights, but just all core and things like that. And I did that for about 7 or 8 years, and I did it full on, 7 days a week. And my boys were training with me through COVID. And as they locked down the parks, and I still could go into the parks with my rings, and the police would often come over and go, you can't be here. And it was crazy times. And I remember being through COVID, because you didn't know when it was going to end. It went forever. Yep. And I'd be in parks in the winter time and there was no one around, and I'd see another human because it became rare to see people. And I met people who would come up to me and just burst into tears, and they'd see me and they go, oh my God, I haven't even spoken to someone. And it was literally only after, So I guess for me, I built through COVID, that's where for years before COVID, I was already training. But when COVID hit, I said to my boys, I already knew what COVID was. So for me, I would already done my research. But I said to the boys, we're going into a 3-year lockdown here. Not 3-year lockdown, but it's going to be a 3-year program. And they were like, how do you know this, Dad? I said, you have to trust me. We're going to have to get very strong mentally, and we're going to have to get very strong physically.
Yep.
And that's where I cut my teeth, was on COVID. It was actually my apprenticeship. And then when I came out of COVID and they let us out and the sun came out and they said, take your masks off, and not that I ever wore one, but I got my channel started, and nothing was hard after that.
Yep.
Nothing was ever hard after that.
Yep.
It's I don't know if you've had that experience in your life where you get past a really big hurdle and it's like, now nothing's going to be hard now.
I've been involved a lot in property development. So it was an area that I got interested in at a young age, in my 20s. I always loved property. I loved real estate. And I started off doing sort of some small projects, little townhouse jobs. My last project that I did was an apartment building. It was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my working life. And there were nights, and my wife can be a testament to this, I would be sitting there just saying, I'm way over my head here. Like, I am way over my head here. The industry is designed to just screw me at every single turn, so I have to pay someone to fix my problems. You need to get a third party to come in, and engineers and this and that, and construction has its challenges. And there were times where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish this. You got money pressure, borrowing money from the bank. You got neighbour issues. You got council issues. All the stuff that comes with property development. I got through that. I finished it. My wife got me at the time. I'm not a diary guy. I'm not a guy that generally would sit and log my journal my thoughts. And she said, start writing it down. And I'm like, I'm not writing it down. What's that going to do? What's writing it down? If we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. What? She said, just start writing it down. And it's funny. Just last night, picked up my journal. I just started writing something because I don't write in it often. And I flicked back. To some of the dark times where it felt like the world was ending. And then when you stop and look at it and say, was everyone healthy? Were you fit and strong enough to be able to fight that problem, whatever it is, or solve that issue? And you always look back at retrospectively and say, it wasn't that bad, but why at the time did it seem so bad, right? So I went through all those challenges and I flicked through, and I was smiling reading it, and also had flashbacks of how difficult it was, not sleeping, worrying about every single little thing. Oh, what if the building surveyor says this, and what if that doesn't comply? And, oh, geez, that concrete right, or is that in the wrong spot? All these things that I just keep manifesting in my head, all these problems that I start worrying about. After I got through that, and then started to get going with my next project, all these little things don't bother me as much anymore. I stop and say to myself, you've been here before. You know what to do. There is always a solution. Are the kids healthy? Yes. Is everyone happy? Yes. Okay. There is a solution for these problems. It is not the end of the world. Melina says it to me all the time, and it just grounds me. She says there are kids in the Royal Children's Hospital that maybe will never leave. And that just stops, and I just say, you're right. We will get through this.
It's so funny to say that we've had a lot of loss in the last week in our families. But one of them in particular, I don't want to bring it down, but the loss of another person, especially someone close to you and suddenly, is designed to do two things. Obviously, one, for you to mourn your and to express your mortality, but the other one is to teach you a lesson. And I think the lesson it's meant to teach you is, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Yep. Because I came out of a podcast in Sydney on last Tuesday to the most horrific text and in a heartbeat, my whole life was reimagined in a moment. It's like it's such a shock that you have to evaluate everything. And I think when you have these challenging times, they're designed to help you reevaluate what is really important here.
Yep.
You mentioned family. For me, health is just a little bit before family, your health, because without you, then
Can't look after anybody or can't help anybody.
and I can tell you, one thing I talk about when I talk about wealth, and especially when I'm doing public speaking, is health, my friends,
Yep.
is the highest form of wealth. And I mean mental health, physical health. That's why through COVID, I used to say to my boys, they said, will this ever end, Dad? And I said, and I've got 2 girls as well, and I said, you know what, every day is an opportunity. And they used to say, how? And I say, every day is an opportunity to become stronger, to become better. The parks were closed. You couldn't go out. The curfews were on. It was a nightmare. Couldn't even drive after a certain time. Couldn't see anyone. I said, boys, they go harder. We go twice as hard.
Yep.
I said, and let me tell you, if we ever get out of this thing, we're going to the stars.
Yep.
And the script was just written. The other thing that was a great success, and I just want to draw on something, your childhood. You got to go back to your childhood. What were you like as a kid? Like, how resilient were you as a kid? What challenges did you overcome? I think that tells you a lot about how people will cope. For me, I was a street kid. Like I talk about it in my first book. Most people can't believe it when they read the foreword is about my young years as a street kid. I didn't have a family, and I literally built a life on the streets of St Kilda. And it was rough in the 70s, and I saw everything. And but people say,
Did it make you who you are today?
yes. Now that's the thing. People have said to me, "Oh, that's terrible." It's like, do you know how much fun I had on the streets? Do you know how successful I was? I had a thriving business by the age of 7. I could pick padlocks. I had a padlock collection. I had the biggest padlock collection. So because we lived in St Kilda, they were all high-rise flats, and people used to lock all their mailboxes with little padlocks, these little flip-up metal. And I used to go along and pick all the padlocks and take them all. And then I had this, by the time I was in my teens, I had cupboards and cupboards full of, I still carried these stupid padlocks with me everywhere as a memento of my success of like a little thief.
Were these hard assets worth any money?
They weren't, as it turns out. I mean, there might have been a couple of collectibles in. I used to know every brand, and I used to know everything about them. I used to pull them all apart, and I could pick padlocks till the cows came home, and then
And you didn't become a locksmith?
I didn't become a locksmith, but I could help a lot of people get into places. Like they used to say to me, "Oh, look, we're trying to get into our front door," or Give
me a coat hanger.
Yeah, so for example, I lost in the block of flats we lived in. I never had a key, so I used to pick the lock on the front door every day. So we never had a key because I don't know where the key was. So anyway, but I guess I want to say the reason I mention that is because on the streets, and when you learn how the streets live and breathe and how they work, and there's a lot of danger. And look, I wouldn't say it was all roses. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really awful stuff, but it was worth it because when I had my own family to protect, I knew what to do.
Yes.
I have these 4 people. You've got 3 boys. They're looking up to you, Dad. What do we do? And it's like, well, I don't know the answer, but I know how to survive.
Yep.
And I'm going to show you how to survive. And I said to the kids, they go hard, we go harder. And my boys in COVID, every day we trained and we trained and we trained. My eldest now, who's 18, he's like jacked. Right?
Yep.
He should see him now. He's like, whoa. He's carried that on. My youngest is like yours, a basketball player, and he's just a champion. And my girls are highly successful. They're a lot older. They're highly successful. So as a result of our actions and a result of what we learn and what we do, they're watching, they're listening. And, even down to running our businesses, and they see everything and they emulate that. They might not say it, but they become like a little mirror of what you're doing,
Congratulations to you.
Oh, and you too.
For raising such great kids, and they're obviously inspired by you, and you've taught them values, and they've gone out there and done their own things too.
They have.
So they've learnt themselves, but you've taught them how to learn and how to ask questions. And how to educate themselves. And, the old saying, knowledge is power. It's true. The more we know. And
never teach a fisherman how to fish by giving him fish. A lot of parents think that the way you teach your kids success is you give them money. No, you've got to teach them how to make... if money is the thing, then you must teach them how to make money. It's like you don't walk up to a fisherman on a pier and give him fish because he'll hate you for it.
Yep.
You've got to go through the agony, guys. You've got to learn how to do it. It's no point me giving you the fish because you're going to rely on me now to give you the fish.
So... BTR mainly focuses on gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Education of those.
So when someone calls BTR, what do you offer them? What do you guys talk about? Where do you help them? What sort of clients come to you with what issues?
Well, first of all, people that want to become wealthy and people who are generally have been destroyed by the financial system.
Yep.
So monetary systems and financial systems are like pharmaceuticals and health systems. The pharmaceuticals are the same as the currency systems, and health, the real health system, is, holistic health, is the same as wealth. Interesting that health and wealth are virtually the same word because those two belong together. They go hand in hand. If you understand how to become healthy, you'll understand how to become wealthy. It's the same mindset that goes with it. If you look after your body and the way you are and the way you hold yourself, you will be a prime candidate to become wealthy.
It takes dedication and it takes routine and it takes...
Knowledge. Know what to do. And simplicity. To become wealthy is easy. To become healthy is easy, but you've got to know the simple things to do and you've got to do it consistently. It's got to become who you are. You don't go, okay, I'm going to become healthy next week and then after that I'm just going to eat like crap. You don't say, I'll become wealthy in 2025 and then I'll just be in debt for the rest of my life. No, once you are wealthy and you understand that and you line it up with your health, those two have to go hand in hand. Everything else will work. Everything else will work. It's kind of like the other pillar for health and wealth. And I'm like you. It's not about dollars. Wealth has nothing to do with dollars. People come to me going, well, how much do I need to become wealthy? That's the wrong question. The question you need to ask is, what mindset do I need here? And the mindset, first of all, needs to be one of understanding that if you continue to do debt and you stay in the debt system and you use currency-based systems, that will not serve you. It will serve no one. It isn't designed to. It was never set up like that. But if you want to become wealthy, these are the things you do. But to do it successfully in an urban setting like this, you need to do both. You can't live in this system with gold, silver and Bitcoin necessarily. I mean, yes, you could theoretically, but you also have another system called the debt system, and that is your non-discretionaries, fuel in your car, rent, mortgage, gas, electricity, non-discretionary. So the way we structure people is we say to them, first of all, you need to understand the difference between the two and how simple this is. You don't need economists. You don't need university degrees. People say to me all the time, well, what's your qualification? I don't have one.
Life.
Right? It's like you look great, physically fit. You walk up to someone and say, what you should do? You should maybe ground. What's your qualification? See this body? That's my qualification, right? It is that simple. We've got into this mentality of what's your qualification.
Yeah.
You can't get qualified in what we do. There is no qualification for wealth. There's no such thing. There is qualifications for finance and financial advisors.
Sure.
So the people that come to us are generally people that have had enough. They've been ruined to the point of they might have been through a marriage, they've lost everything, they're struggling, they're down to their final chapter of their life, or they're going into the second phase of their life, another phase, and they say, I'm not doing any more of this. I'm done with this. It's like the person who is overweight and they've looked at themselves every day in the mirror and they see this guy, and then all of a sudden one day they go, I can't look at that. I can't look at that. And
they make the decision.
And they make the choice.
You must have a lot of people that say to you, all right, Tim, so I earn my salary, I pay my bills, I pay my mortgage, my rent, my groceries, my fuel, etc., insurance. I've got a little bit of money left over. I'm going to start putting it into some appreciating assets. So yes, I agree with what you're saying. No problems, great. I'll buy some gold, I'll buy some Bitcoin. How am I going to become rich? What am I going to do with that gold? And if I'm not selling my Bitcoin and it's just sitting in a cold storage, how am I going to become wealthy? I don't understand. You must get that question all the time because people want instant gratification, right?
Correct.
They want to ring you today and then tomorrow they want to
retire.
have everything. So how do you help people with their mindset of A, patience, B, understanding that the fiat system is just continuing to devalue? We know that everything that we are earning today, everything is going up in value, up in price, and the devaluing of our AUD, our fiat money. So how do you tell someone that you will become wealthy, but they think wealthy means I need to be able to spend it? I need to be able to buy things. How do you help them cross that barrier?
It's a great question, and probably our biggest one. And the answer to that is back to the point on health. I often say to people, so if you become healthy, when are you planning to not be healthy? They go, well, I wouldn't. So can you live on this planet and not be healthy? Yes, you could, but you will live a better life if you are healthy, infinitely better. People will look at you and say, oh my God, I'd like to be like that person. Health and wealth are identical. So when people say to me, look, I'm in the debt system, I have a job, we do get people come to us in those situations and say, look, I haven't got much left. I'm like, okay, in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to take what you have got left, and rather than go and buy a thing like a consumable, let's buy you 1 gram of silver. 1 gram of silver you can buy at the moment for, I don't know, about $10, $8. And they'll go to me, why would I do that? Why? What a waste. I want to become wealthy. I go, well, that gram of silver will double. It has doubled this year. In 1 year, it has had a 2x move.
Yep.
Now you've got 2 grams of silver. You see how this works? And they say, yeah, but I want quick. So I had a great example. When I was up in Queensland doing my book launch, there was a young guy. He came over to me and he'd just been wiped out in some trade, in some crypto trade.
Yep.
We only have
with leverage, probably.
With leverage. And he came up to me and he said, listen, gold, silver, Bitcoin, I don't do those. And I was signing his book for him while he was talking to me. He goes, why would I do gold, silver, and Bitcoin? I said, because they are immeasurable stores of value over time. My clients are all 3x, 4x. You just hold them and you become wealthy. You don't have to offload them to be a wealthy person. You just are wealthy by just virtue of the fact you are holding these assets.
Yep.
You can choose to liquidate if you want. That is your choice. But remember, when you liquidate, that's like giving your health away. It's like saying, well, tomorrow I won't ground. Tomorrow I won't train. Tomorrow I won't go out in the sunlight. That's okay. That's your choice.
Yep.
All that will happen is you'll become less wealthy if you do that, or less healthy. So my point here is this guy said to me, but gold, silver, Bitcoin, too slow. I need quick gains. I said, you got wiped out on a 10x leverage trade. You just told me that. He goes, that's right. He goes, but that's because that's how you do it, bro. That's how you do it. And I said, that's not how you do it. I said, that's how you think you do it. I said, you're how old? He goes, I'm 35. I said, and he goes, I haven't got this much time to wait. I said, had you not done that 10x leverage trade and you'd come to us a year ago, let me show you where you would be right now.
Yep.
And he goes, but it's too long. I said, it's the same length of time. It's the only difference is you feel like so there's a lot of people who fall for this, especially in the system and in crypto as well. They fall for this idea of rapid, fast, quick. But as you know, health, I look at a guy like you, right? I know that takes time. That takes maintenance. That takes dedication, right? The best things in this world take time and dedication. And it's like a woman
consistency.
When a woman gets ready, you might be out in the car going, come on, we've got to go. But when you see her emerge, she's gone from like a caterpillar to a butterfly, and now she's a butterfly, and it takes time.
We're still late to the party, but she looks great.
And it takes time. Women always tell you, I've got to take time. And you appreciate it. So everything that's worth having takes time. You mentioned your partner's into, her dad was in suits. You see beautiful suits. It takes time. It takes work. It takes knowledge and education. But our system, the debt system, is the opposite. It's quick. It's now. I want a house with 5% down on a 50-year mortgage or a 40. Are you stupid? Do you want to die? I want fast food. I want 2-minute noodles. I want potato chips. I want Maccas. Great. Is that health? Never. Is it wealth? Never. Wealth takes time. And you never plan to be unwealthy. So people say to me, well, when can I spend it? When can I spend it? Wrong mindset. I say to people, you come to me for the mindset. The mindset I'm going to give you is stop thinking in terms of consuming. You need to stop that. That's a consumer mindset. You've got more work to go. Read my first book. It says, if you're going to become wealthy, it's going to take time. But it's worth it. 3 years later, my clients are loving life. They're like, we've sold our real estate. We got out of, I'm not telling people to get out of real estate, but for example, I had a property. It wasn't doing terribly much. It was dead capital. I put it into these assets. It's tripled. Now I've got access to liquidity. Now you don't need to draw down on that liquidity, because if you roll it over into the next year, you've now got X amount of assets that are going to double. If you draw down on them, you're just going to have a less amount of assets that are going to double. If you need it, it's there. But it's so funny to me because something unusual happens. It's the same that happens with people that become healthy. When people have lived a life that hasn't been that healthy and they become healthy, the first thing they do is they realise how terrible that other life was. Like, wow, that was terrible. I was eating chips and I was sitting by the bed and I didn't care and I used to watch Netflix. Now I'm healthy. I don't want to lose this. This took work. This took time. There's a moment, you look at yourself and go, oh, it's all right. I actually like that. And when people comment, right?
Yes.
People look at you and I can see they'd say to you all the time, they'd say, hey, Scottie, you look great. Blokes your age don't look like that. Be standing next to blokes your age with big pots and they've lived a different life. And those blokes with the pots are looking at you going, I don't know, how would I even become that? It's like, it's a mindset. You have to change that. And it's the same when I get people moving out of the debt system. And the first thing that happens is once they start amassing wealth, they stop the consumable stuff. They go, you know what? I don't need to spend it. I just leave it there. I mean, my silver doubled this year. I mean, silver's gone up 4x since I've been on my channel in 3.5, 4 years. Silver's moved 4x. Why would I? People say to me, I'm not touching that. I'm leaving it. But when they came to me, it was all about, well, how do I spend it? Well, you can draw down on it. It's a monetary asset. But the question becomes why? And what are you going to?
And I think a lot of like the younger generation, teenagers now with Instagram, they're seeing people portraying a certain life and they feel like they need to make quick money so they can buy these things. And that's something I really worry about. My son and my sons, on social media, now that it's banned, that's a great thing. See if he gets his way around that pretty quickly.
Yeah. So going to be a lot of 18-year-old, 12-year-olds on there, right?
Absolutely. And it's exactly that. They want it now and they're watching and, it could be, oh, gee, I want to look like that or I want to buy that or, oh, gee, look, he's got a Lamborghini. I need to have a Lamborghini as well. And that's what I worry about with the younger generation. And I'm going to show this podcast to my boys. What advice do you give them? Because they're young now, they're not working yet. My oldest is going to get a part-time job soon. He'll be 15 next year. What's the advice for the younger generation? Because they're getting to that age where they need to learn. The school is not teaching them certain things. What are some words for them? Some words of wisdom that just to plant a little seed they can start investigating.
Everything that you've been told about the monetary system by any institution and by anybody that doesn't understand wealth is completely wrong. That's it.
Yep.
You will never get the Lamborghini doing that. The people that you are seeing with the Lamborghinis are either, I don't want to speculate. But my point here is currency, because of what it is. If you are basing your life on trying to get more currency at a time when the central bank keeps debasing it, in other words, you're scratching at a side of a sand dune that just keeps caving in the more you scratch. If you try that, you will die in abject poverty. 70+% of the middle classes in the Western world will die in abject poverty without $1 in the bank. The only time you will get anywhere near close to that Lamborghini is when you stop thinking in terms of currencies and you start thinking in terms of wealth assets. Gold, silver, and Bitcoin. I know people struggle with Bitcoin, but that's because it has a different format.
Yep.
But the same thing happened when we moved to currency back in the middle of the 19th century. People went, hang on a minute, a piece of paper is better than a piece of gold. It's the Bitcoin thing again.
Yeah, people worry because they can't see
it's
it.
not
And
tangible.
people that don't understand the blockchain get a bit worried. Well, but where is it?
CIA and all that stuff. So I guess my point is that we only work to really 4 points. One is we look for undervalued assets. I know that might not mean a lot to young kids, but we look for things that are worth buying, basically. Undervalued assets. Number 2, we look for anything that's not in the system. So it has to be decentralized. Get it away from the system. The system is not designed for you. You will not get a Ferrari working a 9-to-5 job. I will promise you that. Andrew Tate says something interesting. He says, I imagine you'd be a fan of Andrew Tate.
I follow him, yep.
He says, when I drive into a service station in my Bugatti, he goes, do you think people are thinking I've got a 9-to-5 job? He goes, hell no. They all think that I'm doing drugs or something. I'm doing deals. Because the mindset is, well, you could never have that.
Yep.
So the first thing kids need to understand is they got to change this idea of currency, job, work. Different if you've got a company like you and that's an asset that you can really build on. But if you're going to try a mainstream approach, which is the consumer approach, so the entire fractional banking system is designed for the consumer. They want you to borrow. They want you to be in debt. They need you to be in debt. They want you to use currencies. That's why your school never taught you about gold and silver.
It keeps the wheel turning.
It keeps the wheel turning, and it keeps you on the treadmill. Want this, but we'll never get there. So if you want that, you have to change the way you think. You have to move from, as I said, it's like, for example, eating fast food. And there's a lot of young kids that are, not healthy, and they eat fast food, but they go online and they see all these hot-bodied girls and boys and guys doing pull-ups and running down the beach, and they think, I want to be like that, but they still keep eating the fast food. Well, it's like, these two are non-correlated, right? So at some point, there has to be a massive shift here.
Quick story. I was super proud of him. My middle son, we're driving along. He's been saving birthday money. He's got a little jar in his room. And he said, Dad, I want to buy that new push bike, dual suspension, got this, got that. I said, okay, that's good. I said, how much is it? He said, it's going to be about, I looked online, maybe second-hand one, maybe about $800. I said, so how much you got? He said, I got 400. I said, okay. He said, can I put it in Bitcoin? And I said, okay. So I just quizzed him a bit. And I said, why? Why do you want to put it in Bitcoin? I said, I'm glad you're asking. I said, but why do you want to put it in Bitcoin? He said, because you've been telling me that it's going up and this, and maybe I can turn my 400 into 800. And I said, okay. I said, we'll put your 400 into Bitcoin. And I said, but you need to be prepared for a little bit of volatility. I said, do you understand what that means? I said, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. If you're going to look at graphs, you're going to be really happy some days, and then you're going to be a bit sad some days. I said, are you aware and are you comfortable with that? He said, I am. It just means I'll have to wait a little bit longer. And it triggered. I loved it because he started to understand patience.
Wow.
He started to
How old?
understand. He's 12.
Wow.
He started to understand, obviously he's been listening to me when we're driving, he's been listening to podcasts within the car with me.
The right podcast.
And he started to get it. And I was really proud at that moment because I did not understand anything at age 12 when it came to money and finance and wealth. I knew absolutely nothing about it. So if I can instill more of that into my kids, let them be inquisitive, let them learn that there is a bigger world out there. It's not just what we are taught. And what the news shows us is only what the news wants to show us. They need to sort of deep dive a little bit further. And my journey has been exactly that. I've been a property guy for a long time. I loved property. I loved property development. I now look at the world differently.
Yeah.
I now look at diversification, which I didn't look at in the past. I now have a Bitcoin portfolio. I am now looking at hard assets like gold and silver, which I didn't in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So I am learning. And if I can teach them things that I didn't know at that age, by the time they get to 44, it's going to be a completely different ballgame. And I was super proud when he said, it just means I'll have to wait a bit longer. So he started to understand patience, and he started to understand that it's not tomorrow. I'm not going to say, here's 400, put it on red on the roulette table, turn it into 800, and then I'll go buy the bike. Yes. He understood that it's going to take some time.
I
was
love
super
that.
proud of that.
I will give you this gem, though. That's music to my ears. And I've taught my boys same. My boys have Bitcoin portfolios and silver and gold, and they chuck it all over the place. And I wanted to say that the best lesson I could give your audience is the 4 positions of a dollar. And you asked about young kids. Number 1, so I'm going to quickly tell you what they are because I think this is probably going to bring it home a bit. Ties everything up. In my new book, 2033, I write a chapter called The 4 Positions of the Dollar. Number 1, you can spend it. So someone gives you $1, your boy could have easily spent that. Your 12-year-old could have spent it. Now, what happens when you spend $1? What have you got? Nothing. It's gone.
Yep.
You've got something that you bought, but that could just be a bottle of water and you've drunk it and you've got nothing.
Yep.
That is pretty much the consumer class through and through. Then you get a slightly different type of consumer class that go, hang on a minute, I'm not going to spend all my dollars, I'm going to save my dollars. So the second position of the dollar is to save it. But the problem with that is you put it into a commercial bank, or if you're from, say, an old Italian background, you probably stuff it under a mattress somewhere. But if I think about it like this, so position 2 is you save it. Now, that's slightly better because the person that's saving it's figured out that if you spend it, that's not good because you're probably not going to have anything left.
Gone. Yep.
The only problem with saving it in currency systems is two things. One, you can get 4% in the commercial bank if you're lucky. And secondly, you are dealing with debasement. And the Australian dollar was debased by 18% last year. And debasement refers to not that you haven't got $1, but what can that dollar actually buy you in value. And last year it was 82 cents. It dropped from $1 worth of goods to 82 cents, for example, by 18%. So now you'll notice that when you go into the supermarket a year earlier, your bag of chips was $2, but now it's $12, and you've still got the same dollar. So this is called debasement. So that's position 2 of the dollar. Now those people, after a while, again, they're a little smarter than the first lot. They go, hang on, 4%, and debasement's not enough to outrun inflation. I need to do something to outrun inflation. So they go to position 3, which is a trading position. Trading, and that could be anything. Derivatives, stocks, bonds, real estate, cars. You can sell and flip anything. You can run a business and add, 10% on and hopefully outrun inflation. So people in position 3 get into this idea. They're still in the currency system. So positions 1, 2, and 3 are all currency based, and they flip and they trade and they get into it and they do everything they can, but they're still in currencies. And some people do really well, and they can outrun inflation, and they can provide for, and they can do better than the person in position 2, and even better than position. But then there's the 4th position, and that's called wealth. And wealth is totally decentralized, has zero counterparty risk. It requires you to become a central bank. And I don't mean you go and register yourself as a central bank. I mean, holistically, you are the arbiter of your wealth. You have physical assets within your possession that cannot be controlled by a centralized government. The ATO has no idea how to do this. And again, this is a commodity-based system. Now, there are obviously certain reporting requirements and so on, but the problem with commodities is they are so far outside the realm of the debt system that no one knows really how to deal with it. I mean, you're dealing with generic assets within your possession. There's no statutes that control this. So you are a sovereign arbiter of your wealth, and Bitcoin is the other one. So I guess they are the 4 positions. And position 1, spending will lead you to debt instantly. Position 2 will lead you to debt over time. Position 3 will definitely mean you die in abject poverty. And position 3 is the only chance you have of something called dynastic cross-generational wealth. You're a dad of 3 boys. I want to leave you my legacy. My legacy will be things like rare cars. Rare cars are considered monetary because they have value over time. The only difference is they're not liquid monetary because they have a limited audience, but they have an audience. And I'm a big fan of collectibles. That's why I was obsessed a little bit with your collection. And I'm a big fan of fine art and collectibles. So monetary assets store value over extraordinary periods of time. They are within your possession. They are generally physical. There is no one else that owns them. There is no one that can tell you what to do with them. And they can be passed down without any fear of retribution. And that's how you become wealthy. And that is the answer. So people need to position themselves either in 1, 2, 3, or 4, but know the risks of each. And most people I meet come from position 3. And nearly everybody I'm talking to are in position 3. Some are in position 2. On the rare occasion, position 1, but mostly 3, which is this idea of I can outrun inflation by doing something like run a business, as I said, or real estate, or whatever it is you're flipping or doing. But when you move to wealth assets, it changes because you're now no longer in a currency-based mechanism. It's not valued on currencies. It's now an intrinsic value system. Gold, it's like your rare cars. There's no actual value for them. They're only worth, really, in the end, what somebody's going to give you for them, and they're incredibly rare. Rarity. Value. One of the best monetary systems on the planet is fine art and collectibles. It's just that they're limited in their liquidity. That's all.
I hate listening to my own podcast because I hate listening to my own voice when I'm driving in the car. But this one, definitely my kids are going to be listening to because I really, really want to instill this. And you're saying some absolutely beautiful things, and I love it. We're running out of time, and I have got so much I want to talk to you about. Like, there is so many things.
We could do a second part.
Oh, my God, there's so many things on this list. But I'm going to quickly fire some questions at you just for a bit of fun. Okay? Tea or coffee?
Coffee every time.
Morning or night?
Morning.
One word to describe yourself.
Creative.
What song gets you fired up?
Am I ever going to see a face again?
I like it. Your favourite asset class?
Silver,
Always or just recent?
always.
Beach or mountains?
Ooh. I go beach.
I love it. I'm so glad you came on the show because my audience is going to love everything that you've spoken about. It has been so good. I'm going to urge everyone to please follow Beat the Reset. You'll find them on all the social channels. If you jump on their website as well, there's a list of services that they offer that they can help you with as well. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. I've loved it. I could talk to you for hours, but absolutely talk to you for hours.
No,
and
pleasure.
there's so many questions here I had. But I love the way our conversation went and the way that we
Well,
went
I'm
off
happy
topic.
to come back at some stage when you're ready. We'll do a second part.
We will.
Because the kids may say, Dad, listen, I've got a bunch of questions. Can you ask him this? And I'll happily
Oh, I
answer
like
it.
this. I'm going to come back with a list of questions
From
that
the kids.
my kids made.
Yep.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. You've heard it. There's going to be another part 2 in the future. So please keep supporting the Scottie G Show and liking, subscribing, and hitting all the buttons. And don't forget to make
Good.
choices.
Make good choices.
Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you on the next one.